Agea's manuscript rests inside the Church of Our Lady Mary of Zion in Aksum, Ethiopia. It has not left that building in over 1,600 years. Access is restricted to ordained clergy of the Ethiopian Orthodox Church. The text measures its subject with surgical precision, and what it describes about the origin of demons contradicts every assumption Western Christianity has built since the 4th century. Banned, buried, called dangerous. In 363 AD, the Council of Laodicea removed this text from the Western canon. No debate, no replacement, gone. 11 fragments of the Book of Enoch were recovered at Qumran among the Dead Sea Scrolls, meaning this document was circulating, studied, and preserved by the same communities that produced the texts Christianity treats as sacred. 11 fragments, not a footnote, a fixture. Here is what the text actually states, not what scholars speculate, not what theologians debate. The Book of Enoch identifies demons as the disembodied spirits of dead giants, the physical offspring of fallen watchers and human women. Not fallen angels, not spiritual rebels cast from heaven, the spirits of dead hybrid flesh, cursed to wander the earth without bodies. That is the thesis. It is written plainly. It has been readable for over 2,000 years. In the next several minutes, you will see exactly how the Watchers descended, what their offspring became, and how the text explains the precise mechanism by which those offspring produced the spirits now called demons. A mechanism the text describes with the kind of specificity that does not come from mythology. If forbidden biblical history is what you come here for, hit subscribe. Every week we surface what was removed. The passage comes from the 6th chapter of 1st Enoch, verses 1 through 6. The manuscript tradition traces directly through the Ge'ez codices held in Aksum, cross-referenced against the Qumran fragments catalogued as 4Q201 and 4Q202, and rendered into English by Dr. Michael Knibb in his 1978 Oxford translation, still the standard academic reference for the Ethiopic text. The passage is not vague. It names a location. It gives a number. It records an oath. 200 watchers descended onto Mount Hermon, not a symbolic gathering, not an approximate figure. 200 with named leaders, bound by a sworn covenant made before the descent, so that none could later claim they acted alone. The text records that covenant in direct speech. The leaders swore together. Then they came down. The Ge'ez word used for these beings is egregori, not malach, the standard term for messenger, the word translated throughout Scripture as angel. Egregori. It means the wakeful ones, the ones who do not sleep. The distinction is not a translation accident. It is a classification. These are not messengers sent on an errand. They are a separate order of being, defined entirely by sustained, unblinking attention directed at the physical world. That specificity matters. An ancient text recording a mythological event would not need to distinguish between categories of heavenly beings with separate vocabulary. It would not need to give a head count. It would not need to name the mountain. And yet, it does all three. 200, Mount Hermon, the wakeful ones. Here is where that becomes difficult to explain away. Mount Hermon sits at 9,232 feet above sea level at its peak. It is geologically anomalous, a solitary massif rising out of the surrounding terrain with no continuous mountain chain to account for its elevation. Ancient Near Eastern cultures across multiple independent traditions treated it as a sacred threshold, not one tradition, multiple. Ugaritic texts reference it. Phoenician records place ritual activity there. The Book of Deuteronomy names it under 3 separate regional titles because 3 different cultures had 3 different words for the same site. The author of 1st Enoch had no geographic survey, no cross-cultural comparative archive, no reason drawn from the literary conventions of his era to select that specific peak as the descent point unless the tradition he was recording already carried that location as fixed, inherited, and non-negotiable. He didn't choose Mount Hermon, he reported it. The text then lists what the Watchers taught: weaponsmithing, the forging of swords, knives, shields, and breastplates, sorcery, astrology, the reading of celestial movement as a system of knowledge applied to human fate, the cutting of roots and the knowledge of plants, which the Enochic tradition consistently associates with poison and pharmacological manipulation. These are not the gifts of benevolent teachers. The text frames them explicitly as corruptions, knowledge transferred to human beings before they possessed the moral or physical architecture to bear it without destruction. Enoch does not celebrate the Watchers, he records the damage, and the damage did not stay theoretical. The Watchers took wives from among human women. The offspring of those unions were the Nephilim, a term the Genesis account mentions once and moves past in 2 sentences. First, Enoch does not move past it. It stays there. It measures what emerged. The giants consumed the agricultural output of entire regions. Then they turned on the animals. Then the text states plainly, they turned on human beings. And then they turned on each other. What the text describes is not a war in heaven. It is a contamination on earth, physical, biological, generational. The Watchers brought something down with them when they descended, and it spread outward through their offspring into the fabric of the physical world. That contamination did not end with the flood. According to 1 Enoch, it could not end with the flood, because the flesh of the giants was destroyed. But flesh was not the only thing the giants possessed, and this is where it gets disturbing. The text being cited here is 1 Enoch, verses 2 through 5 of the 7th division. The manuscript source is 4Q201, one of the Aramaic fragments recovered from Qumran Cave 4. It is currently held under catalog by the Israel Antiquities Authority. The standard translation used by scholars is R. H. Charles's 1912 Oxford edition, cross-referenced against Dr. Michael Nibb's 1978 critical translation, which remains the academic benchmark. The passage describes what happened after the Watchers took human wives. The offspring were not human. They were not angelic. The Ge'ez rendering uses the term Nephilim, derived from the root nephal, meaning the fallen ones. Not fallen in the sense of moral failure, fallen in the sense of descent, a hybrid class of being carrying both angelic spirit and human flesh in a single body. That combination had never existed before. The text treats it as a violation of categorical law. And the behavior that followed matched the nature. The giants consumed everything. The text lists the progression in precise sequence. First, all the food produced by human labor. Then the animals. Then, when the animals were gone, they turned on the humans themselves. The passage does not use metaphor. It reads as a logistical account of consumption without limit. A being with angelic energy requirements housed inside a physical body that demanded physical fuel. The math was catastrophic. Here is the impossible knowledge beat. The author of this text, writing in the 3rd or 2nd century before the Common Era, describes a class of being that is neither fully material nor fully spiritual. He assigns them a 3rd ontological category. That concept, a being existing between 2 states of matter, does not appear in formal philosophical literature until centuries later. Aristotle's categories of substance were written approximately 300 years after the earliest Enoch fragments. Yet the Enoch author is already operating with a more specific framework. He is not describing monsters. He is describing a structural problem in the nature of existence itself. The modern match is not speculative. Dr. George Nicholsberg, in his 2001 Hermeneia commentary published by Fortress Press, identifies the Nephilim terminology as representing a distinct cosmic category, beings whose dual nature made them incompatible with either the spiritual realm or the physical one. They could not return to the angelic order. They could not die in the way humans die. They occupied a 3rd state. Nicholsberg's commentary runs to over 500 pages. The category is not a footnote. It is the central problem the entire Enoch tradition is trying to solve. The flood resolved the physical dimension of that problem. The giants' bodies were destroyed. The water covered the earth. The hybrid flesh was gone. But the text does not treat that as a resolution. Because flesh was only half of what the Nephilim were. The angelic component, the spirit element carried inside those bodies, had nowhere to go when the bodies died. It could not ascend. The angelic order had already rejected what the Watchers had done. It could not dissolve. Spirit in the Enoch framework does not simply cease. It persists. So the spirits of the destroyed giants remained, earthbound, without bodies, without a realm that would receive them. The text describes them as wandering. The Ge'ez construction uses a present continuous form, not wandered, past tense, a historical event, wandering, ongoing. The grammar itself carries the implication that the condition did not end with the flood. The flood was not a cure. It was an amputation that left the wound still open. This is where the church's simpler story begins to fracture. The standard teaching positions the flood as a reset, a clean slate, evil removed, righteous preserved, history restarted. But first Enoch, drawing on the same underlying tradition, describes a flood that solved only the physical problem while leaving the metaphysical one entirely intact. The spirits of the Nephilim were not drowned. Water does not drown what does not breathe. The century bridge lands here. The ancient world described roaming earthbound spirits as the source of disease, violence, and corruption in the post-flood world. Modern demonology, across Catholic, Orthodox, and evangelical traditions, still describes demonic activity in exactly those terms: disease, violence, deception. The framework did not change. Only the origin story was quietly removed, and the origin story is the part that explains everything else. Because if you know where the spirits came from, you know what they are. You know their nature. You know why they behave the way they do. Remove the origin, and you are left with a phenomenon that has no explanation, which is precisely what the church eventually offered. Evil as a vague force, demons as a general category. No genealogy, no mechanism, no third ontological class of being trapped between two worlds. But the text has the mechanism. It has had it for over 2,000 years, and the next passage takes it further than you are prepared for. The passage that follows comes from the 15th division of 1st Enoch, verses 8 through 12. The manuscript source is again 4Q204, the Aramaic Enoch scroll from Qumran Cave 4, cataloged by the Israel Antiquities Authority. The translation anchor is Dr. Michael Nibb's 1978 Oxford Critical Edition, cross-referenced with the Ethiopic Ge'ez canon, held by the Ethiopian Orthodox Church, where this text has carried scriptural authority for over 1,600 years. The speaker in this passage is not Enoch. It is the archangel Uriel, delivering a formal verdict. The Ge'ez uses the word manifest. It does not translate cleanly into English. The closest construction is breath spirits, beings that exist in the register of breath, of wind, of the space between living and dead. Not alive in the way flesh is alive, not dead in the way flesh dies. The manifest occupy the same third category established in the previous passage. They are the spirits of the destroyed Nephilim, now named and classified with forensic precision. Uriel's verdict is specific. These spirits are cursed to roam the earth, not temporarily, not until some near-term correction, until the final judgment. The text assigns them a function in the meantime, afflicting humanity with disease, inciting violence, and operating through spiritual deception. 3 categories, listed in sequence, not as metaphor, as a taxonomy of mechanism. Here is the impossible knowledge beat. The author of this text, writing centuries before the Common Era, is constructing a causal chain that runs from the Watcher's transgression at Mount Hermon, through the hybrid Nephilim, through the flood, to a class of roaming spirits actively afflicting the post-flood world. That is a complete etiological system, an origin account for the source of evil in human experience. Formal theological systems in the Western tradition did not produce anything comparably specific until the medieval period. Thomas Aquinas's treatment of demonic nature in the Summa Theologica was written in the 13th century of the Common Era. Enoch's framework predates it by at least 1,400 years, and Enoch is more specific. The modern match is already embedded in canonical scripture. The letter of Jude, verse 6, references angels who did not keep their proper domain, now held in chains under darkness for the final judgment. 1 Peter chapter 3, verse 19, describes Christ preaching to spirits in prison. Both passages assume a framework of bound, categorized supernatural beings awaiting judgment. Neither passage explains where those beings came from or why they are bound. Enoch explains both. Dr. Lauren Stuckenbrook, in his 2014 work, The Myth of Rebellious Angels, published by Moore Seebeck, documents in detail how Jude and 1 Peter are drawing directly on the Enoch tradition. The New Testament authors knew the source material. They cited the conclusion without citing the premise. The church eventually removed the premise. What remained in the canonical tradition was a demonology with effects but no origin. Demons afflict, demons deceive, demons must be resisted. But the question of what a demon actually is, its nature, its genealogy, its reason for being earthbound rather than confined or destroyed, that question was left without an answer. Enoch had the answer: manifest, breath spirits, the remnant consciousness of hybrid beings whose bodies were destroyed but whose spirit component had nowhere to go. Cursed to remain, cursed to afflict, cursed to persist until a judgment that the text says is still coming. The Ethiopian Orthodox Church did not remove this. Their exorcism liturgy cites this passage directly, in active use, today. Which means the framework Enoch constructed is not a historical curiosity. It is a living operational document in one of the oldest Christian traditions on earth, and the evidence for all of it is sitting in public archives right now. 11 First Enoch manuscripts recovered from Qumran are publicly cataloged today by the Israel Antiquities Authority. The catalog numbers are verifiable. The fragments are real. The Ethiopian Orthodox Tewahedo Church cites 1 Enoch, verses 8 through 12 of the 15th division, directly in active exorcism rites, not as history, as instruction. R.H. Charles's 1912 Oxford translation remains in print and freely available. You can read the source yourself today. The spirits Enoch named, classified, and assigned a function are still described as active by the oldest continuous Christian institution on earth. The mechanism he documented is still running. Which detail from Enoch changes how you see demonology? Tell us below. Forbidden Biblical History surfaces here every week. Subscribe if that matters to you.